What we are seeing right now in Minneapolis is some of the most important and darkest news I think I've been alive to witness. To me, as a near 21-year-old emerging into the world, what I think we're seeing unfold with ICE and the killings and the subsequent protests, not just locally but nationwide, is going to me, define this era of U.S. history. And I want to talk about it. History is determined by the winner. And what we're seeing in Minneapolis right now is I don't think something this country has seen for at least a couple decades. And this is not the first time a social movement in the U.S. has ended with blood in the streets. But it is the first time in my lifetime, in recent history. Now I have a video coming out about this that I'm working on, about the White House's social media usage, specifically not just Trump's, but the actual White House pages on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, using propaganda and misinformation to inform the citizens of this country. And something I want to talk about mainly is not just the tragedy of these murders. And I want to be clear in my language here that I do believe that these were murders. I think this is one of the most well-documented cases of just straight-up overreach of power, of murder in the streets by federal agents. I don't think I would use the word killing or slaying, obviously I will, but if I'm defining what these were, I do believe they were murders. I've seen the footage from multiple angles in both instances with my own eyes. I can testify to that fact. And I think that's what kind of blows my mind about this whole situation, is that in the past, when you've had instances like this, where the government's putting out one story and the people are putting out a different one, it's been much harder to determine the truth because of maybe lack of video footage, lack of widely shared or accessible evidence. And that's what leads to confusion about these type of events. But with these two murders, they're so well documented. We have multiple video recordings from multiple angles of both murders that are not only easily accessible but being rapidly shared at all times across every social media platform, across the web, across messages, people sending these videos to each other saying, you have to see this is crazy, I can't believe this is happening. And to me, these videos are crystal clear. You can watch them and see for yourselves exactly what is happening. That's why I'm so confident in calling this what it is. And so what I want to talk about in this video is, to me, what I think is not being talked about enough, which is how the Trump administration has responded to these murders. Because before they happened, there was a possibility that something like this happens, the administration sees it, and their public response matches the videos that we see, the footage that we have, where they come out and say, yes, we've analyzed the footage, the agents did not act accordingly, they issue an apology, and they promise tighter restrictions. Do I think they'd hold up to that? Of course not. But they could have at least pretended. What I think is so brazen and so unabashedly devastating to me about this whole incident is that we have these two well-documented, well-recorded, highly viewed instances of federal agents murdering people, protesters, in the streets, where both times the government has immediately responded and defended the actions of the agents, not only defending them by claiming that they were acting in the right, but by completely lying about the situation. With the Renee murder, Trump was talking about the agent being in the hospital on Truth Social. The White House was talking about how the ICE agents were fighting for their lives, how she was moving with the intent to run them over, and one of them was hit by the car. We have footage of the entire incident. And after reviewing the footage and reading expert testimonies from people who have also reviewed the footage, it's clear that none of that was true. And then it happened again. ICE agents killed a man who was pinned to the ground by 6 different agents. There was 6 agents around the scene, about 3 of them pinning him to the ground, and they shot him, executed him on the ground. And once again, I think this goes to show just how much the government right now is prioritizing misinformation and twisting these stories in front of our own eyes. Stories that we can see. Stories like the Epstein files, where the one photo that included a picture of Trump, the one that got through their filter, was subsequently removed, recensored, and changed, and then put back up as if we didn't see what was already there. And I think that's what's scaring me about this whole situation. As much as the masked men shooting people in the streets are terrifying, the government's response to it, to me, is even more terrifying. Because they're basically saying that these people have the authority to kill. The ICE agents could be withdrawn, they could be reprimanded, there could be reform, but there's not. And instead there's the twisting of the truth. There's the lying and the defense of the actions of these agents. When you have widespread footage like this, so easily available and accessible, you have footage that I've watched, footage that you as well can watch, and decide for yourself what you think you see in it. When you have footage like that, and then the government is saying to your face, you have a phone in one hand with the footage on, you have a TV screen in the other with Trump giving a briefing at the White House, and in one hand you see a woman trying to drive away from some ICE agents who are threatening her, getting executed point blank with zero intent to run them over. And on the other screen, you have Trump saying that she was driving with the intent to kill, she was a domestic terrorist, and that one of the ICE agents was severely injured. We have the footage. That is what's breaking my heart about these instances. The government is lying. The government has always lied. And I think, to some extent, that's pretty normal. The full truth is rarely often the first thing to come out of the government's mouth about these type of situations. But what I think the Trump administration has been doing so specifically is targeting the truth in a very manipulative way. And they're not just saying that what we are seeing with our own eyes is false, but asking us to reject it and believe their story, despite the very literal video evidence that we can watch and decide for ourselves. I don't have much else I want to add to this video. What I really just wanted to talk about was that side of the story. Everyone's talking about the actual actions, which are obviously deservedly needing to be talked about and are despicable. But even more despicable to me is the cover-up and the lies, the brazen lies in our face. It's so insulting to our intelligence as voting people, as citizens of this country. It's insulting that they think we should believe those narratives, and it's insulting that people do. So I want to end this video with a quote from George Orwell's 1984. I'm sure it's a quote you guys have seen floating around regarding these instances, but I think it's worth bringing it up and speaking again. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their most essential command. Thank you.